I was listening to John. I got to respect John a lot more than I did. He comes up here and there with a few hit deep, and you have to acknowledge some of the things he brings up. I do the same, but the one thing in detail, really, was what comes into this country, uh, and what I mean by foreigners who are allowed to go through the gates of the Philippines. Yeah, hello, Philippine stalker. Philippine, you got to change that name. You want me to respect you? Now, I was listening to John Blaze, and basically he was talking about, and I've actually quoted John Blaze before, because every now and then he does come up with something that's worth actually discussing in detail, or at least cover something that he's talking about. So I'll give John Blaze some kudos on his last topic. And, you know, you only know what you see here on YouTube. And of course, the hate groups and everything on here. And it's real. I mean, what you got to understand, the hate, okay, it's coming from a deep, dark place. Now, I guess what John was discussing is how basically there are groups of people on Discord and other social media places that have these discussions about young, well, one of them anyway. He doesn't feel you should have any young children on camera. Don't make them part of the show. For example, um, he made a joke about the Olsen. Well, not a joke about the Olsen twins that he once seen a guy, grown ass man, during that time when the Olsen twins were, just I'll be there when they're 18 years old. It's sick. There is so much corruption. There is so much sickness. There's so much illness, psychological illness, that's pouring into the borders of the great country. And only a small fraction at all, if ever, is because of a mistake perhaps that they made. And that's the only way that pretty much the Philippines government really knows of the perverts that come into this country and how dangerous they are. Now, we're all, for example, used to hearing people attack others, including myself being attacked, and they'll even do channels under your name. And you think that's sick, right? Well, I mean, it is sick, but it goes. We've had people on here, and it's not for entertainment purposes. Trust me, it's not. It goes deeper than that. Aloe, for example, talking about screwing babies up their ass, and uh, you know, there's a lot of things I know about some other vloggers. I won't even. If you think the stuff that Barry did was bad, and yes, it was, taking advantage of Filipinos, all that shit, begging and threatening people and calling them child predators. When there's a dark, deep, and I caught that, and I'm always very good at catching this stuff. And when I exposed him on that video with the young girl trying to get her to bring her friends over on a weekend, and everybody could clearly see that that chick was not of legal age. Some people argue that, but I've had other Filipinos, and they could tell better than we can the age of someone. And the girl was underage, but now I actually know of situations which I won't discuss on here because I don't want to get legally in trouble. Vloggers that you may know that had an intent to come to this country and open up pretty much with young girls so that foreigners who want to have their taste of some can go through them, and at a specific would pay for the company of these young underage Filipinos. It was an intent of somebody on here to do that, and another vlogger knew about that. Now, I can't talk about it because a lot of legal troubles I could get into naming names or anything like that. Let's just leave it at that and say that I know that there were plans from somebody to start up an operation like this. This is the sick shit that's out there. Now, I know everybody hears other vloggers exposing themselves to be very hateful, vindictive, with people maybe they never even. or being very adverse to somebody's channel, whether they don't like the person's voice, content, the way they part their hair. It doesn't matter. There's just always something on there. What goes on? What goes through our borders out here in the Philippines is scary because a lot of foreigners that were involved in that behavior in the country they came from, they all know, and that's why they come here. And you'd be surprised the numbers that are coming into here. Come here for the sole reason of taking advantage of it. And if they're vloggers, they're not going to talk about it. They'll have their own little special groups that might talk about it, and maybe some discreet discord. But you would be appalled and see how sick a lot of these foreigners are that come into this country. You could label somebody to be anything you want them to be. Whether it's true or not, that's another thing. I've been through that. You all know that. I've been labeled as everything in the book, none of it being true. But this is an example of people covering up. I know a lot of you people think they're pretty. We don't know how. Probably not. What's coming through the borders in this country is alarming. And they all gather in certain towns too. Birds of a feather gather together. That's usually the way it works, right? Okay. Oh, hey, John. I liked your show. I got up not too long ago, and I thought I'd do a show talking about the sickness that goes on here, and by vloggers and non-vloggers. You have no idea how. Now, I know a guy, a vlogger, I'm not going to mention his name, that lives in Louisiana, and he goes under different names. But I happen to know from this guy, photography was his hobby. And this guy for doing some really bizarre videos. He's a little bit creative, putting together little videos, and this guy is actually, when his boy, he used to dress them up like girls with makeup on. Girls, just to have subject matter, to practice. And his wife has not been, and his wife doesn't really even live that far from where he lives. And he's done some really creepy shit, is what I understand. And yet he's one to come out there and actually attack and do videos. Does sperm nips come to mind? These people are living a dark. Can you imagine? I mean, we see this all the time on here, where people come to the attack on another vlogger. For example, me being attacked, Barry being attacked, everybody being attacked on here. This is real. There's a psychology going on here and it has to do with things going on that a lot of us would be really, that their behavior on here is real. They don't put copycat chat. They spend the time to wait for somebody to put something on, and then they might add graphics. They might do other things to that. They throw your wife or girlfriend into there when they have nothing. Call them prostitutes and whores. Edit pictures, show a bar. This is how sick I know, because I mean, there's a sickness going on here that I think a lot of you would just get off you if you had any idea how sick a lot of these people are. These are people that hunt down young girls out here. They get involved with the sex trade. They even involved with sex trafficking. They are part of groups that adhere to their own little policy and it's lining up young Filipinos, or maybe even they actually discuss it in private, how they're going to find them, where to find them, share photographs. John Blaze was kind of, he's in the right direction. Sickness goes like, look, I've been on here a long time, right? I've seen and heard it all. But sometimes I think I've seen and heard it all, but I didn't. When I'm Dumaguete is a big place for the real creeps go straight to Saudi, huh? But I've experienced a lot of shit on here that you people understand the satisfaction I get when I can't explain the satisfaction, the work I put into something, the time, the effort. When it finally reaches fruition, I'm a happy man, but I'm not happy yet until I get everything I want with this individual. Now, the bizarre thing about a lot of vloggers on here, they can put on shows that knock your girlfriend. Then the guy that's defending himself against all this shit on here. So we need to attack him. We need to find dirt on him before he exposes us. And maybe I have exposed people, that's why. But let's go on to. He's right. But we don't want people to think that Frank is right. Let's discredit him in any way we can. Let's try to get people against Frank. In other words, let's against Frank or anybody else for that matter. I'm using me as it's pretty. And let's, because this, let's just pretend that he said this and that and this and that about somebody. If anybody on here is honest about it, and if I out of anger ever said anything on here about anybody on here, I might have even apologized for it. Again, the vortex thing, getting caught up in there, but you can't get caught up in the vortexes on here. You got to stay away from that vortex. It's only you that can do that. You that wants to participate in this crap makes it worse and prolongs. Don't get involved with that crap. Be individualistic. Be independent. Don't get involved with that because you could go. Now, a lot of people on here, they think they can get away with a whole lot of shit on here. But eventually it all catches up to them. I mean, I personally know somebody, and that's in a jail cell and never expected that. Nobody's going to put me in jail. Nobody's going to deport me. Question answer. You know where he is. He didn't get there by himself because he would have never, unless he had an accident or something and somebody wanted to check his ID and passport and everything else. And then suspicion arose that, oh my God, I checked the immigration and this guy, almost 7 years. That's it. And labeling me as a sexual predator when he himself is very questionable in that department. We don't know how dark and deep it. I have an idea how dark it. And I'm not going to share my ideas with you. I'll keep it to myself. But I've put together, and not just going with gut feelings, that I think that this was a reality with this guy, that it went a lot darker than the crimes that you stealing money from people, sorry stores, not paying utility bills and running out on a woman, leaving her hanging, hurting somebody's baby, manhandling the woman, talking about sexual things that he did with his girlfriend upon a moment of anger with her when they broke up, and saying with some devious things they did in the bedroom, which should have been lying about every goddamn thing he talks about. It gets dark and deep, and it's not just the surface stuff that you. And this actually goes with a lot of YouTubers on here that you think are pillars, people who try to spread fear so that you don't attack them, because they will say that if you attack me, I'm going after you, and we're going to go after your family, and they're going to call family members and all that other shit, tell them you're dead or whatever, or threaten to. This is your friendly, but you need to know that it's not just on a surface level. It goes deep. And I noticed to be is Mike Ross out there. Well, he don't show up on my channel. Yeah, Mike Ross. Yeah, like that's ever going to fucking happen. Yeah, you're a pillar of the community, putting Brevis on your show and agreeing with him and everything he said about me, yet you have the fucking balls to come on my show, think you're going to be accepted. Well, guess what? You're being blocked again. I was lenient with you, but not anymore. You just have to go into one of your socks. But, we're only scratching the surface on what you think you know about certain YouTubers on here. the very people that are saying that I did something that's not living here anymore or is coming back. You don't examine both sides of the coin and what happened on it. You know what? I had a legitimate, always did have a legitimate channel, but I had a good channel in the beginning. It wasn't until Triple R got involved, okay, did this become a fiasco. Who knows how many subscribers I would have had and how successful I would have been on my show. These are the people that point fingers and say, Frank did this, Frank did that, Frank did. What did they do? Nobody wants to examine the what did they do. So when Frank or anybody else tries to defend on an unwarranted statement or accusation or allegation, I'm attacked about it. We have the right to defend ourselves on here. It doesn't do any good, really, but you have the right to defend yourself. For example, they turn veterans against me. That Frank don't like veterans and Frank said bad thing about veterans. That's comes on. And I did a show that explains that's not true. But you see, they will try in desperation to dig at the bottom of that barrel and try to find so much trash. And they dig and dig until they can find more dirt. As I said, until their fingers bleed and the nails break. That's what goes on. When they can't find anything else on you, they will create something. I did a show, a couple of addressing something that Eric said. That military is not my gig. I was honest about it, right? I didn't believe in the wars. I didn't believe that the government should get involved with certain affairs of other countries. I think a lot of, but God forbid you're not raw. You're not a true American if you're not rah about all the crap that the government does, even to its own soldiers who are. I hit a raw nerve with some people. And even the people that were in the military know I'm right. They know they were used and abused by their own government that hired them. Hired guns. You're hired guns. And murder is still murder, whether it's on the street or it's in the fucking battlefield. And I will never. And don't even try, because you're not going to go there. And if you get offended because you spent some kind of time in the military, understand something. I have my own opinion, and I should. They want to say the rah things about the military, and even if you were a cook, that you served your country. Yeah, you served them. But anybody who's involved in the military that did anything that made the machine well oiled and functioned had a good part. Whether you were a salad prep, whether you were a guard, whether you were a mechanic, I have nothing against that, just to straighten out. But I've already covered that. But they will try to take what you say and turn it around to make it very. I'm just a person, and I'll get off the military thing in a minute. I'm just a person that would not have. I'll put that up front. I would not. I am a conscientious objector on that. It was a war or skirmish that we had no reason to be there. And let me tell you think the Vietnamese were bad? I knew a colonel that gave me a tell-all session, not only to me, but through his book, that told me the reality of Vietnam. And if you think the Vietnamese did some disgusting, horrible things like taking prisoners, putting them over on a rope over a blazing fire and watching them suffer, or cutting heads off, the U.S. military and their allies did the same fucking thing. Now, as he explained, that the Americans and the allies became so desensitized to what was going on, I wouldn't say, but they did the same shit. They had so much of a hatred for their enemy that they became desensitized. Something like cutting off a head, putting them over a roasting fire was nothing. They were as bad as the fucking. You don't know stories though, do you? But I do. From a bona fide fucking high-ranking colonel who did recon in Vietnam. It's kind of horrifying, the stories that he gave me. It really made me scratch my head. Vietnamese and the things that they have to live with for the rest of their lives, but they become a pawn for the government of the United States as far as the ally. You don't hear all the stories about that, do you? No, you don't, and you probably won't. No wonder they got PTSD. When you think of some of the shit that some of them, not all of them, we're not putting a whole group in here. We're saying that there was some ugliness on both sides of the coin. Both the enemy, United States soldiers, and allies. It was horrific. It was like a horror movie. As a full-fledged colonel, and he served how many tours? 8 tours. And he did a lot of recon work. And if anybody knows what was going on, and this guy self-admits some of the horrible things, then you guys would be in shock. What was really heroes? All right, protect yourself. You have the right to do that. Then they talk about some of the ugly things. That was so. No wonder they got PTSD, some of them. They have to live. Okay, now that's my opinion. You can respect it or not. I don't give a shit. You're not going to change my mind. And believe me, oh yeah, they tested drugs on people too, and good old U.S. They use them as guinea pigs, Agent Orange, and it goes on and on and on. But rah, rah, American flag, rah, rah, rah. Because, we're gyrene. We're representing our country. Well, when you fucking torture people, you're not okay. When you set them on fire, okay. When you rape children, you're representing the United States. How many fucking soldiers have raped children? But they're not going to talk about that. They're going to talk about their honorable duty in the service. But behind the scenes, just like the deep, dark things we're talking about with YouTubers, what goes on behind the scenes, what went on behind some of these people's lives that serve. See, I'm the one that'll bring it out here. Everybody's afraid to talk about it. I'm not intimidated by people that are trying to hide the truth about what they did in the service or what they didn't do, but proclaimed that they did. Be upfront, be true. Hiding things is not going to prevent the deep, dark secrets. You have no idea. I do have ideas. Are they really sick in the mind, or is it just a game? Is this just for entertainment and drama? Are they putting on a show? A little of both. Sometimes they get carried away. But I decided to put some creep away before he would hurt anybody else. He did not belong in this country. He did not belong in America. He didn't belong anywhere except protected by steel bars. And that's why I completed 75% or so of that mission. It's still not done yet. I'll let you know when the other 25% of that particular mission is done. I knocked that smirk off his ugly, skinny. That smirk. Ha ha, you can't get me. I'm never going to jail. I'm not ever going. Well, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Just cross that line with me. Everybody said Frank would never do nothing for years, but well, we had the COVID thing going on. Yeah, forget about any legal things happening on there because it just didn't happen. They didn't have the staff. I mean, it wasn't toot sweet, quick that this happened. The officers had to reevaluate cases and priorities of what's already been on the table up to the ceiling before they could get around to certain cases. Of course, they knew about him. I made them know about it. It even got to one point that they, not when he was living, where he just was living at. Prior to that, this was either, they knew about him then, and they were on the attack. They were waiting for an arrest order. But it just didn't happen. And other priorities came up. He would have been in here a long time ago, and he would have been out of this country a long time ago. A lot of people are saying, oh yeah, Frank's all talk. He don't. I do a lot. Not because I'm a YouTube policeman. That's the last thing I want to be. Only, but if I know that somebody did something so fucking bad that has to be brought public, or the authorities have to know about it, I will do that too. But I'm not a YouTube policeman. My concern is my own welfare. My concern is myself, my dignity. Okay, so they tested LSD on Ricky, on Lady Gaga. Perhaps. Who knows? I tell you, there's a lot of deep, dark secrets to these people. There's a lot of Discord shows out there. I mean, like a lot of people always thought that, Chris from Cebu is this very tame, good natured. If you knew how radical Chris, your hair would stand up on the back of your neck if you knew how dastardly evil Chris. You guys don't have a clue. All you see is the. But these people who do some really incredulous stuff on here, oh, it's real. It's not it. It's real. These people are. And maybe John Blaze will elaborate on another thing on his show about how. But it's a good show, John. Good. Had to piggyback you on again. I've done it once. So me and John do think alike on certain. And I think John is intelligent. He's a pretty intelligent guy, actually, Larry. He's a pretty intelligent guy. I've never doubted that. I never doubted that. And he is a very talented guy. And if he says he flies airplanes, believe him, because I believe he does. He's shown it. He has talents, probably mechanically. I mean, real, not this made up that saying stories that I used to own this and used to own that. And they never, but they know how to do this, they know how to do that, but they really don't. I think it took a while to figure that out. Not really, but after time, I figured out he has talent. And I always told John, look, you don't have to prove yourself. In a lot of his shows, he trying to prove that he's successful and whatever, and owns this and owns that, and could do it. Whether it's the trailer he owns or whether it's the equipment he buys, whether it's the projects he's involved in. I had told him a number of times, you don't have to prove that you are successful in your own rights, that you are financially very well. You don't have to prove to anybody on here, nor do I, nor that any. John understands, though, as well as I do, I'm sure, that there's a lot of envy going on out here. And that, I think, is a certain percent. I've had a lot of viewers that said, Frank, I want to live your life, Frank. I want to find a mature woman like you did and be happy like you are and settle down. They said, I can't go to bars, he said, and I'm not going from woman to woman to woman and all that shit. And people realize you're getting older, man. Stop chasing your tail, that you need to settle down at some point. But not everybody's like that. Some people were rejected by women all their life, and we know a few like that, don't we? And now they use and abuse women as a way of satisfying their little, and they do a very good job of that, of using and abusing women. We have one guy out there who said it on his show many times. Fuck as many women as you can. They're only good for one thing, to have sex with, and to clean your house and cook your meals. Those guys should not be in this country. If any of that sounds familiar, just apply it to that person you think it is. I'm here. If your nose is to the, or whatever, you got your finger on the pulse of the YouTube community, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I don't respect people that use and abuse Filipinos. I don't care. They don't have to be. They could be Vietnamese, they could be Viet Cong. I don't care who they are. Using and abusing women because you know you could probably get away with it to a certain point until you get caught. See, these people are so cocky and they got such a huge ego. These are narcissistic people that goes beyond that. I'm going to show these women, they think, they fucked me over, but now I got a perfect place to go to Philippines. I can get the youngest women, they're saying. And I'm going to use and abuse them and throw them away like you use rubbers until next one. If I'm too fucking bad, I'm not going to take care of the kid. The kid's never going to have a father. This is the quality people that we have coming into the Philippines. And a lot of them are right here in a good old Mr. Rogers community over here. These people are for real. Don't kid yourself. If they say they're going to threaten you, they mean it. If they're going to stalk you, okay, if they're going to call you your family or something, they will. If they take interest in somebody's young girl that happened to be in your family on the video, hey, they already were lusting after my girlfriend's daughter. When it was her birthday party, I've seen the comments on there. They were. This is an example of the sickness. Okay, John tries to make out. John. Oh, John tries to make out as a big shot. He can't bring it with him in the grave, Frank. Well, he's not committing a crime by being proud of what he's accomplished. I think it's perhaps a little bit immature of John to do that. Yes, I told you earlier, John doesn't have to prove anything. The very fact I have a house, I have a great woman, just be happy for me. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Although I've gone the distance many times to exhibit that my life really isn't that bad out here, that I had all my ducks in a row, and I'm proud of that. Proud to talk about it. But I think in John's case, it's more of a contest. Look what I got, look what I got, look what I got. We know what you got. That's okay, John. I believe you. I believe you. You don't have to do that. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You got to understand, John, these people are losers. You're a winner for the most part. Okay? You got your ducks in a row. These people are losers, people that criticize you for what you own, for what you learned, for what you accomplished, your endeavors. You did well. You would think that people would be happy for you and proud, but no, they're envious of you, John, the way they're envious of anybody on here that's actually living a decent life. That, I love to use that expression, is got their ducks in a row. And I do. I'm not a wealthy guy. I'm sure I don't have any kind of money that John Blaze has and some other people on here. I really don't. I know I don't. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what I'm worth. It's not as much as people think, and it's not as little. Okay. But everybody has an opinion. Frank's broke, but I don't know. How does Frank do all the property, jewelry, everything? How do I go out for dinner, buy things, spend, even for a trip to Cebu, spend sometimes 90 to 100,000 pesos in one trip that only lasts a couple of days? Where's this money coming from? Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? If I'm broke, how do I do this? Am I making big money on my show? No, I'm not. There's a lot about me you don't know, and I will never tell you about. Ever, ever. You think that's all the money I have? Maybe, maybe not. You don't know that, and you never will know that. The one thing you can't do on here with your research is going into my bank accounts. You have no clue. I may be joking and saying I'm on the broke side. Or I may have very little money in the bank. Or I may have several accounts and may have a lot of money from different resources and sources. You don't know that, but see, you're not going to know that because it's none of anybody's business. You can only say so much on here because people will use that against you. Trying to make me an anti-war guy or an anti-military guy. As I said on my show, a lot of military in my family, even my father, and police all throughout, and detectives all throughout my family history. Not against veterans. Not at all. I'm just against people who are trying to do this false. I'm supportive of veterans in that respect, absolutely. When they did serve, and some fucking goon out there who maybe has never been in the service, or maybe has been in the service but didn't do shit, was never in the battlefield, and he's claiming all this false valor. Hurt my on a bouncing Betty, and they don't even use that expression, bouncing Betty, anymore. They used to call the landmines, I think what they call them, I don't know what they call them, incendiary, I don't know. I'm only veterans who know the language, I really don't. So get it straight, I have nothing against the military at all. I'm creating wars that never end, and starting a new war or skirmish with another country for perhaps reasons we shouldn't. It gets philosophical with me. That's all it is. I'm not a person that would ever be drafted into a war. You got it right. I'd go somewhere. I would. I'd be a conscientious objector. Just like you got the right to free speech. And yes, that's what you're. Okay, when you join the military, you're fighting for the flag. You're fighting for your country to protect things like free. When you confront them with certain issues, no, you can't talk about that. Only I could say that you're wrong for your beliefs. They do not want to allow me to have my own beliefs and thoughts about the military, about wars, about killing, about what the government is really doing, that everybody's a pawn, for the government. I can't have that free speech, apparently, with people just because they're in the military. They will not allow me to have that free speech. Out, it's out, inside, go, go. They will not allow me to have that free speech, but they can run their mouth all they want and talk about the service. I mean, look at Popeye. He rides his little motor scooter with about 10 American flags on it. Okay? 10 American flags. I can see him now. The flags waving, about 10 flags on his little electric scooter. What did he do? Nothing. But he served. They're correct. Took a little acetone or whatever, or denatured alcohol and cleaned around the missile buttons, get rid of the dust. We won't knock him for that. But put the fucking false valor away. That's all I'm saying. Put the fuck. You served. Let's leave it at that. Great. Fantastic that you care for your country and you served. We salute you all that are in the military. Every single one of you goons out there. We salute you for serving. No matter what you did, whether you were a pencil pusher, don't matter. You all came together like a fine oiled machine. And we all out here appreciate that. I appreciate that. Just don't come with me with this false valor shit. That's all I'm saying. You can't knock me for that. Because you know there's a lot of false valor. And every fucking veteran out there should be against those people that are claiming false valor. They should be pissed. And a lot of them are. And I've seen videos where people with false valor was approached by people who they were in the field, even got hurt. And then when they see some goon out there saying he did this and did that in the military, he never even served, or maybe he was in the military, but he didn't do any shit and he wasn't even in the field, and he comes on to these guys who actually have served, who actually have been in the field, that have seen people get killed, their buddies, and maybe they got wounded themselves. They got every right to be mad as a hornet against somebody with the false valor shit. I understand that. I support them. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Mika says Papa is an obnoxious character, pure narcissist. Mika says Frank the accountant. Oh. Yeah, they're creeps, Mika. That's what I'm saying. They're creeps. They try to get in touch with your children and the family. They've done this stuff. These are psychologically sick. You may think they're just fucking around on here to make a show and get a reaction. But no, it's real. Every idiot out there that acts like an idiot, it's real. It's not a show. It's not a put on, whether it's Lady Gaga or anybody out there. It is not a show, I repeat. Or if you're a stalker, we know some people do that. It is real. It is real. They are stalkers. They've got mental illness problems. It's 100% guaranteed. It's not by accident that they do this stuff, that they stalk and they want to be with all the infamous vloggers and appear in their videos and talk about them. They're seeking attention on a deep. Go out there and they impregnate women and just treat them like shit and hang out in bars. Makes me fuck. It does. It really does. I don't know how you guys feel. Come on with the thumb.